The Radium Podcast, episode 30. This is a big one for us, Kev.
Yeah, number 30. That's achievement right there.
That's achievement. That's 30 weeks of podcasting.
Consistency.
That's good. That's
what we preach. You got to be consistent, and here we are being consistent, right?
Yeah, we're getting there. We have a super special guest here today, Victoria Sue in the house.
Yo.
Yo. How you doing?
Good. How are you guys?
Good. Really excited to have you. We talk a lot about marketing, branding, which is kind of like your specialty, as I know. Can you just kind of tell our audience a little bit about you, your background, what you're doing?
Where do I start? So much already. Okay, so I'm a creative director / producer. I started. So do you want to hear like my childhood story? Or
yeah, let's hear it.
Yeah.
Okay,
let's
so
how
I got
branding.
into even music period was when I was younger. I was always sitting in my brother's sessions. So he used to be a DJ. He would record his mixes and stuff. I wouldn't go out to hang out with my friends when they would knock on my mom's door and be like, "Oh, is Victoria here?"
Yeah.
You know,
Like I'm busy.
No, I wasn't even playing with dolls or anything. So I would sit in his room and just listen to his mixes. And I was 10 years old. So
That's tight.
I had no idea what he was doing. All I knew was he was on Techniques. He threw on records. He mixed. Like, that's all I knew. And it was a lot of hip hop. And he was into jungle. So I was,
wow.
So I was, yeah, my ears were exposed when I was a youth. So then afterwards, one day he was like, "Here, come try it out." I was like, "What?" And then, so I went over to his side. He puts on these big ass like headphones in my ears that kept slipping off.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, let me do this." And all I remember was him telling me, "Don't break the needle, don't break the needle."
Right.
And
You're
then
like,
I'm
"Damn."
like, "Okay, can I touch the record?" Like, I didn't know anything, about records or mixing or anything. So he taught me while I was there because he knew I loved music. Like, I used to steal his CDs, steal like the pamphlets that came with the CDs.
Oh, nice.
And then I would never put it back, and he'd get so pissed off, and he's like, "Where is it? I would steal him to read lyrics." And so he taught me how to mix when I was 10, how to like blend music, and yeah, that's how I started. And
That's where it all started.
Music ever since, and my first CD was Eminem.
Dope.
Yeah, there you go. That's a good one to start reading lyrics to.
Yeah, right. Especially like all the murder shit he's talking. You're like, "Oh yeah, I'm 11 years old."
All the cuss words.
Yeah, exactly. Just learning about music through Eminem.
Yeah, so that was my childhood with music. Afterwards, I started going into the industry with wardrobe styling, actually. So when I was in high school, I would cut classes and fly out to LA. So I'm originally from San Francisco.
Nice, Bay
And
Area.
yeah.
I'm from the Bay.
Are you?
You get a lot of Bay in
San
here.
Jose area.
Oh, San Jose.
Cupertino, if you know where that is.
I do.
Okay, dope.
Okay, so I would cut classes, take my flights. Of course, my parents wouldn't know. They would just know I cut. And then make friends out here. So I didn't even go to my prom. I went to prom in LA.
Wow.
I know. And so I would, and then eventually, obviously, I graduated high school and then went to university out here. And then I was interning. So I was a full-time business student, 23 units.
Wow.
Interning for 3 years for absolutely free. Then like in the daytime. And then I drove back to university, which is like a 2-hour drive, and then took night classes. So I was, and flipping purses on the side because I was a hustler.
Oh, damn.
Like,
Get it?
True hustler.
I was broke. I was a broke college student. You can, I mean,
Yeah. You got to get it however you get it.
Yeah. So I tried to put myself out there ever since I was young. I was just like, I need to learn about this industry. I need to learn about the music or the fashion industry. And after that, I happened to go to Toronto, and I was working. Well, I wasn't working. I was seeing someone who worked at the Remix Project, which is, if no one knows what the Remix Project is a nonprofit organization ran by Gavin. And the Remix Project, that's actually where Drake came out of. So like he
crazy.
did a lot of his like recording at the Remix Project, him and 40. So the Remix Project is a nonprofit organization for high priority neighborhood kids, and it's for like the arts, so either music, fashion, business. And I was there and I helped creative direct some of their multimedia series that they were doing with the kids.
Oh, cool. Is that like your foot in the door there?
In a sense, it like gave me a glimpse of what creative direction was, because at the time, like, I was just styling, and I was like, okay, I can do more than just style work. I was creative directing sets. I was, spitting out ideas. And then so I wanted to stay there longer because I'm not a citizen. So I told Gab, I was like, hey, like, link me up with like UMG Canada or something, So he got me a music meeting out there. And then so I got a meeting, and then before I got there, I got a call from J. Cole's team and was like, hey, we're going to go on tour. You want to hop on? So that's how everything like kind of...
Yeah, that's crazy.
Out.
There's always that one door that kind of opens, and then it's like, you want to take advantage of this, or you want to like not?
Right. Or even like you have multiple doors and you're like, what door do I walk into? And that door is going to lead to another door, but everyone's got a choice.
Right.
So
what type of things did you handle on J. Cole's tour as far as his branding and marketing?
So like originally I was just styling him for his tour.
Gotcha.
He already had like an art director. His name was Adam at the time. And but I was learning a lot from his other director, like just filming, his name was OG, so I learned a lot from Adam and OG as far as like creative direction, as far as filming, and they were just dropping gems.
Yeah, it's like on the job training.
Yeah,
that's where you learn the most.
No, really. And they just threw me in the fire. I was like, all right, cool.
Yep, totally. That's amazing. So fast forward to now, today, and what's going on for you, and what are you, I guess, what's your like main focus, main passion in what you're doing in music right now? So
my main focus and right now I'm working on Young Nudi's project. He came out with Slimeball 3 recently, and he's gonna hop on tour in about 2 weeks from now. First show is in Jersey, and I'm doing the stage design, creative direction for that, because a lot of people in Atlanta, the artists there, they don't really know what creative direction is. Right. They don't really know how to market themselves or brand themselves, even though, they are up and coming and they're like popping up fast. Right. I know. Like, how do you present that? Right. Especially especially coming from LA, we're kind of used to that terminology already. We already know what the duties consist of over here, but when you're in Atlanta, how do you break it down to someone who's coming from the streets? Like, how do you make that digestible for them, Yeah. So I'm out there and I'm breaking it down to them, to, being around that artist and alike, and I'm working towards that. Yeah.
Is he headlining this tour?
Yeah, it's his tour. Awesome. So he has 2 other artists with him. That's cool.
Yeah, so that's actually like a really big deal. I think to the casual audience, or they don't understand what the difference between being the headliner, even if you're headlining small rooms versus being an opener.
Yeah, because it's a big difference, because when you're headlining, that's your show. Yeah, that's you. Yeah. That's you. This is how you're presenting yourself to the world. Right. And the people you bring on is the people you kind of co-sign in a sense. Yeah, talk on that a little bit, because that's really interesting to me. When you're headlining a show, it's your bill. So you're basically saying, like, how important is it that you pick, acts that sort of fit within your brand and your music and all that? Yeah, so when you're picking acts that supplement you. You got to make sure they complement you. So they got to sonically, visually complement your music, even to make the show that much better.
Right.
Like it's almost to the point where like, how can you make my show better than what it is if I didn't even have you guys? Like, I'm already a great artist. Like, how can you guys add to the experience?
Right.
Yeah.
Because I always think about it as like, it's sort of like the preliminary acts before the big main act. It's such a big part of the actual branding and the part of like the performance that kind of warms up the crowd, and you know what to expect, and you're hearing sort of, you know, the same vibes, the same kind of shit, the same energy to get to that main act to where you're like, okay, this is what we came here for, you know, but you're like warming them up for that.
Right. And not only that, but it's also up to the headliner to introduce these new acts because we've never heard of them before. We've never heard of this music. You're co-signing them. So
it's a good
that
point.
means maybe you're supporting them too. So if they suck, then, you know.
Yeah, right. That falls on you a little.
You have a lot of weight on your shoulders to bring on people on your tour.
Yeah.
You know what I've always thought, and I think I mentioned it before on one of our previous podcasts, is you really get to experience someone's brand or, you know, what they stand for, who they are musically when you see them live. You can see their talent, you know what I mean?
Yeah, completely.
You see like the way they control the crowd, that talk to the people, you know what I mean? Like when you've been to, I'm sure, like a Kanye West show. When he goes on his rants or things, you understand Kanye, like the full spectrum.
Yeah, you're ready for that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're expecting that. You're like, what?
When's he going to say some crazy shit?
Right. I came here for just that.
Exactly.
Yeah. With artists, for example, Black, he's amazing live. Black, Jay-Z, Kanye, of course. But like you mentioned, they sound super different from just recording in a room versus like something live, because some artists don't know how to perform live. And maybe that's something that either they need to do more rehearsals with, because I know some artists don't do rehearsals, period. Like 21 Savage doesn't do rehearsals. Young Nudie doesn't, you know, so I think rehearsals are important.
Yeah, I think it's crazy that they don't. That's
They
insane
just
to me.
like grab the mic and go.
Yeah.
Like ballsy.
Yeah, that's super ballsy.
I've seen a lot of bad performances, and, you know, not to be on a negative, you know, set here, but like one of the major things that annoys me about live performances is when the artist has all of his friends on stage with him. Like all the homies are just lined up, sitting there smoking blunts. You know what I mean?
I
just
feel like
kicking
that's
back.
like they're trying to make that as like that music video vibe.
Yeah, totally.
You know?
Yeah.
It just doesn't translate as well when it's live.
I never liked that either.
Yeah, you're like, where's the star? Like, does it even matter anymore? Like, you know what I mean? That's when you kind of get diluted in the crowd. I'm like, yeah.
Maybe it's part of the culture too, though.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
I mean, just for me being audience member, and trust me, I've been to a gajillion hip hop shows. I think if you're going to have someone on stage, they have to have the same energy as you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
And the artist usually has a lot of energy. And if there's someone on stage who's kind of
Just
bringing
hanging
down
out.
the energy.
Looking at their phone.
Yeah.
Or just like a wallflower.
Yeah.
It gets weird.
So like for me, like I always like notice that, and you know, the big acts like Drake or Lil Wayne and stuff like that, like there's no one on stage.
Yeah, they don't let the homies
Or
hang
you
out.
see you even see Travis Scott yell at the photographer, or you know what I mean? Like it's very specific, like, you know, who's on stage, and like because you're thinking of the audience, like who's really focused on you and what's going on.
And it's your music.
Right.
So I think the spotlight should be on the main person.
100%. So is most of the stuff you do, is it for live tours and live stuff, or?
So what I'm doing the most at the moment is like album rollouts, campaigns, touring, if that pops up. I'm the person behind the branding and marketing for that.
Yeah, that's very cool. I would love for you to, you know, we have a lot of listeners that don't really understand branding, marketing at all, and then some that are pretty far ahead. But I'd love for you to just kind of break down in your own words, and also having your experience, what is branding? What does that even mean?
So like that falls under like creative direction too. So with creative direction / branding, it means it's art direction plus design plus strategy. So you can't have one without the other. You can have great art direction, great design, but if you don't know where to place these things strategically, then it's not gonna market to anybody. And also the other way around. If you have shitty design, you have like no storytelling behind your art direction, but have a great strategy, people will still, it won't correlate to people. So I feel like branding, creative direction, art direction, you need all three pieces and they gotta fit together. And if it's executed perfectly, then it'll work. And that's branding, that's creative direction, that's art direction. And it's not just ads. I guess people think branding is like marketing and ads.
Right.
It's more so like developing an identity for, say, a brand or an artist. It's picking out the colors, the vibe, the textures, I create mood boards all the time just to put it out there and like you to just focus on a specific identity. That's developing an artist.
Right. So the importance of like branding, I think a lot of, like you're talking hip hop and like urban genre stuff, like the importance of really standing out and being your own, thing that people don't just like kind of get caught up in you just washing in with everybody else.
Yeah, I was talking to my friend about this, that like
brand identity, I guess is the word for it.
Well, I mean, it's branding overall, I would imagine.
Yeah, like I was talking to my friend Maz about this. He's an engineer producer, and we're saying that nowadays independent artists or even artists who are signed, they are contracting people outside of the labels because now labels are so saturated and they're not focused on the artist. They feel like they're not giving the time and effort and space for the artist to to develop them. And nowadays artists are becoming smarter, that they're hiring their own managers, they're hiring their own creative directors, they're hiring their own team, like set team just for them, because if you're under a label, you also have like, labels also have like 10 other accounts that they need to focus on. And and how does that work? Because if you have like one marketing team that's gonna do all these accounts, right, like it's not really special to you. You know?
And they're probably more focused on who's really excelling in the company. Like they want to double, triple down on the top performers, not the guy that is like trying to break in and live his dream, Yeah. Like they're like, sorry, we don't really have the resources to, push into you as well. Right. So
that goes kind of back to what we preach a lot on the podcast, which is becoming your own business as an artist.
Yeah, no matter what, right?
Decide who's around you and who, and controlling your own destiny and operating as a business so that you can have people on your team who just handle your wardrobe and styling.
Yeah. Why not? I mean, like there's so many talented people out there, creatives who are willing to like dedicate their time just for you, and I suggest that for any independent artist or any artist, period, to create your own team. You know your music well, you know yourself well, and the people you want to work with. You don't have to work with people you don't know,
Yeah. I think that was the difference between the new model versus the old. The old model was like everything business-wise is kind of like handled by the label, maybe besides management. Right. But like the new model is you are the business and you like partner with the label. A lot of these artists just have distribution, you know what I mean?
Yeah. Or they have like their own management label.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really interesting to me.
I think that's pretty cool, actually.
Yeah, I think that is kind of the way it's going. I see like a lot of even those the internet producers doing that, you know, like Taz Taylor, he's like starting his own label and he's doing the whole artist development thing, you know. He's like, I want to bring in these artists and I want to develop them with my team. And that is so invaluable. Like artists don't really understand how it works. I'd say the majority of artists, especially just getting into music, they just think I need a label, right?
Yeah.
I need money.
Yeah.
And it's like if you don't have the branding and the positioning and like you were saying, the three things, the strategy and all that stuff in place, it's none of it matters. You'll spend that money so quickly on nothing.
Yeah, and you'll go in the industry in red.
Yeah, right.
Like,
exactly.
Like, what? I already owe you this much? I didn't even do anything yet,
Right.
you know? Like, I'm already in debt with you.
Yeah, that's not fun.
No. If I was an artist, I would rather build up, do whatever I can as like an independent whatever, do like to your capabilities, build that leverage, and then, you know, go to the label.
Yeah.
If I need them for whatever.
Yeah, I think maybe using labels is really getting to the next step once you hit your complete ceiling. Like you've already gone and pushed your money into things. You've built a team.
Yeah.
You know, you've released records. You've put out music videos. You've budgeted everything yourself. You've branded yourself as much as you can.
Yeah.
And then you go, okay, we need to get to the next level. Like we need help financially to inject capital into the business we've already started.
Totally.
A lot of the labels control like these avenues such as radio and the Jimmy Kimmels, you know what I mean? The Jimmy Fallons, if you want to get on TV, like usually a lot of it goes through these, you know, big label heads and they can maneuver that. And so that's where the labels still kind of hold value is on these, you know, bigger, higher level avenues like that.
Because of capital.
Yeah, completely.
It really is the capital thing, right? It's just expensive to get on the radio.
Yeah.
Like people don't understand. They pay tons of money to get on the radio. It's not like you just go up to them and you're like, I know this guy, play this record.
Yeah. Or even getting placements on like TV shows and whatnot.
Right.
Like, they're not gonna like pick a song from this individual that just sent it through whatever. You know,
shoot
like,
it to
who
my
are
email.
you? Like,
Yeah, there's a thing called spam filters. They basically filter out 95% of whatever the shit you guys send to emails to important people. They don't even see it.
man, I posted something on my Instagram recently. I was just like, this is effective ways to share music with your peers.
Yeah, tell us about that. That's amazing. Yeah.
Because I would always get spammed. Like, I would get a link and they'll be like, not say anything. And I'm like,
oh my God,
thanks,
that's the worst.
Great.
DM
or they'll
spam.
like tag me and everything. And I'm like, what am I looking at? Or like they'll shoot an email. Can I send you music? Like, am I supposed to reply back and be like, yeah.
Yeah, right.
You know, like, I don't, I think, okay, this is my 3 that I think is effective, at least for myself. So keep the emails short and personal. So at least be like, hey, Victoria, I see you're working with Young Nudie. This may be in the same avenue. Check out my stuff, whatever. Make it short, personal. The second one would be attach your music and then complement it with something visually appealing, like a music video, maybe like a book of whatever, like a story
like
or
a one
something.
pager or something.
Yeah,
one
like
sheet, yeah.
something that's visually appealing to the eye, and it'll make me want to listen to your music. And the third thing is, like, don't just drop your music at the doorstep and then expect someone to, like, open it, pick it up,
Right.
take care. Like, take care of your music. Take care of it, wrap it up, and it'll get to the right hands, because if you care about your music, then someone else will care about your music. So that's a reflection of you.
Yeah.
You can't just drop it off. Like, when I say drop it off, like, don't just drop your music in my DM and not say anything about it.
It's so weird. It's so typical now. I think it's because it's the spam botting stuff.
Yeah.
You know, it's like a spam bot is literally just dropping all this stuff in
Oh
DMs.
yeah.
So I think that's kind of the new thing, which is a bummer because, that people have already tried that and now they're doing it on Instagram and it's like,
yeah, find other
come
creative
on.
ways. Find other creative ways.
Be creative.
Yeah, be creative. I mean, you're an artist or a producer. You should be creative, you know?
Like, I don't know, give me like links to blogs where your music was placed, or
Yeah, that's a good one.
give me a personal press release or something. Like, I'm nobody, but I'm just saying like that would help other people who are looking for new music.
So are you currently taking on more clients, or do you like just constantly keep your eyes and ears open for whatever?
No, I'm open to new clients. That's why I'm not just with like a label or whatever.
Right.
That's actually a choice and decision because I want to work with who I want to work with
Right,
without,
right.
being locked down to just one.
Being assigned to people.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Like if I feel for your music and I'm super passionate about it, like I want to work with you,
Right.
And I don't want to be contracted to just one person. And I think that just opens up avenues and broadens my creativity. So totally open.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I've been thinking about is, and this is like super true now, but hip hop is the largest selling genre out of any genre in music right now, just sales wise. But these hip hop artists are the new pop stars, in my opinion. And when you're a pop star, your brand goes beyond just the music. And where I'm starting to see this in rap, like where fashion, culture, everything is, the A$AP Rockies, Travis Scott's, Kanye West, they're, not just changing the music, but they're changing the fashion, everything else.
Yeah, everything.
Yeah. Could you talk more about, like the responsibilities of an artist to, influence culture just beyond like dope bars? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because that's why I found my niche. My niche is like fashion and music, and that's gonna braid into each other eventually.
Right.
And it's already braiding into each other now. Like look at LV and Virgil, and he DJs, like
Right.
now he's like a top designer for top house. Like what?
Yeah, that's crazy.
And I think it's super important because whatever they're wearing, clothes wise, whatever, people's gonna look at your music and then how you present yourself, and then how you present your music, if things are cohesive with each other, and that falls into your style. So you can't teach taste or style. So
Yeah, that's always the hardest part.
so there are fine examples like Kanye, A$AP Rocky. Those are fine examples of you can just copy them, but this is who they are.
Yeah, you're always going to chase that.
Yeah.
I've never seen a time in fashion where so much of punk rock or hip hop culture has bled into high fashion. You know what I mean?
Until like now,
Yeah.
I feel like.
I feel like this is like the first time that I've seen that.
Yeah,
which is
like
amazing.
Virgil was saying how like it's an intellectual layer on top of streetwear,
Right.
which is nice because now it's more accepting to see streetwear on the runway.
Yeah,
and
right.
I think what
Red
I want to
carpet,
see,
everything,
red carpet, everything, and it's cool. Like you can wear sneakers with a tux now, like what?
Yeah, right.
And I think what I want to see next evolving from music and fashion being intertwined with each other is the runway music.
Yeah.
Like, why isn't producers producing runway music?
Yeah, it's really weird, right? I
there's no
unless
reason.
you're Kanye,
Unless
you
you're Kanye, yeah.
Yeah.
But like,
Just produce your own runway music.
Or like, why isn't designers like reaching out to producers or even artists to make that?
Yeah,
Like,
that's an interesting thought for sure.
Are the budgets big enough to like get a Metro Boomin to make your runway music? I never know the fashion budgets, but
Right.
No, like the fashion world, it's like in its billions. So
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fashion. Yeah.
more than enough.
it's a lot of money
Yeah.
in the fashion world. So I don't see why not. I guess it's just maybe exposing the designers to who's hot right now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I do feel like a lot of fashion designers are very like hip to music. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's like if you like those things kind of go side and side. You know what I mean? A lot.
Yeah,
of
they
times.
always have.
Yeah.
You know, with rock and roll, punk rock, you know, all that stuff has always been very fashion forward, no matter what. I mean, the mohawks, the dyed mohawks, and the fucking, you know, plaid and the overalls and all the chains and, you know, Doc Martin boots and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
You know, Sex Pistols. I mean, it's always been like that. The funny thing is, I mean, even 80s and, you know, 70s, 80s hip hop, you know, Run DMC shit was all about fashion. So it's weird to me too. Like, why wouldn't you connect the dots? Like, you should have major producers working in collaboration for these shows and the runway music and stuff.
I think they will eventually.
Yeah, and I think it's probably been done, just not like we're not seeing it on like a really high scale level.
Right.
On, you know
like
what
I
mean?
would love to see that with Balmain and LV and all the top.
Yeah,
that'd be
designers.
cool.
I see what I see right now is a lot of sportswear companies like getting together with hip hop artists like the Migos and Champ or
Right.
The Weeknd and Puma, right? Or you know, you could go down Kanye and Adidas, obvious.
And then Drake with Jordan.
Yep. So I see the sportswear, you know, going towards the culture. I haven't really seen the high end necessarily. I mean, minus, you know, like ASAP and
well, Dapper Dan
Alexander
with
Wang or something.
Gucci.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah.
So, I mean,
There's
yeah,
a
I
little
feel
bit,
like
yeah.
the sportswear is more, it's like, I call it like casual leisure clothes.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Totally.
casual.
The sweats thing that was happening in LA like
Super
the last
cash.
few years.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like come out with the joggers and the sweatpants and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's more like accepting. And nowadays, I don't think it's even about like the logos anymore. It's,
Right.
Before it used to be like
Now it's about fit, I feel like more so.
fit,
Fit
style.
cuts and like, you know, the multicolored pants and shit, you know? Yeah. It's pretty loud. It's getting loud again. Like fashion is getting loud again. Like it kind of had its moment where everything was, you know, black leather. And now,
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
yeah, and like I couldn't go
Everyone
anywhere.
like looked like a Kanye was.
100%, right? Yeah, it was like black leather and Yeezys. I'm like, okay, cool. It's kind of boring though, you know?
Yeah. I want to talk a little, go deeper, you know, on branding because I feel like, you know, you have a lot to contribute to a lot of our listeners who don't understand like keeping the thread of the brand. You know what I mean? Like making sure that what you do and creating a brand that has like value because I feel especially in hip hop, we tend to like
We lose
give up
that.
the value. We lose it.
Mm-hmm.
Like artists will do a feature for $100. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that might not be on brand with what he does. You know what I mean? Or
No, yeah. Branding's super important because, like, a feature for $100 that might hurt you in the long run just because you made your value so low,
Right.
and you can't also feature everyone. Like, even if someone's throwing you 5 racks, like you can't just accept that because it's just money.
Right.
Like that person's feature is on you now. Like you're associated with those names.
Right.
And to be, artists needs to stay on brand, and they gotta. Some artists don't keep that in mind. That they'll just like produce music, but they don't realize, oh, that's not my sound. I can't put that on the next album.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't. Like,
Yeah.
like that's gonna affect you. So I guess that's where I come into play and make sure that things are connected right. It looks on brand, sounds right. It's a lot deeper.
Yeah. It's funny because I like to equate it to any business that is very well branded.
Yeah.
Like you don't see Apple throwing all their computers on sale all the time. You don't see iPhones for 50% off. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like you have to really protect that commitment to you do you, and that's your brand, and don't sell it. Don't, like, it has to be worth a lot. You have to always effectively be pushing it and make sure that it's set at a standard, even when you're first starting. Like, I see a lot of artists, they're just so, I think the best way to put it, artists, producers, anyone getting into music, they're so desperate, and that desperation kills you before you get started.
Yeah, that they'll do anything.
Anything for any amount of money.
Exposure. Yeah.
I'm showing off lip balm. I'm like, they're doing, like,
it doesn't even make sense to who they are.
It makes no sense.
Yeah.
And you're like, cool, what'd you get, $1,000 for that? Like, it's so weird. And then at the end of the day,
because
you're just
it's
a
quick
wash.
Cash.
Yeah. Right. And that's the whole thing with the social media influence marketing and stuff. Like, if you're going to be an artist and a brand, you can't just go connect with anyone that's going to give you $500 to give them a shout out. Mm-hmm. Like, it doesn't look genuine. So the partnerships, I feel like, and maybe you can talk more on this, but like choosing which partnerships you do make with other brands and aligning with yourself. Like, how can artists really do that instead of just like jumping on whatever's offered to them?
I think it's figuring out what the brand's message is, their vision, their mission, making sure that you agree to what their mission statement is.
Right.
And this is your cosign. This is who people will match you with that brand. If I look at Puma, I automatically already think Jay-Z. I think Nipsey Hussle, because they not consume the brand, but they take on the brand very well. They carry themselves with the brand very well because
it seems natural.
Yeah.
Right.
Because it's part of their story, or how they campaign themselves with the brand.
Right. Yeah, I always think about that because you see so many artists that have nothing to do with this product, but they're like out there putting posts up with it, and you're like, oh man, that's a huge fail.
It sucks because it hurts them, like, in the end, or it'll hurt them because it's just a quick cash, and now you're associated with that brand forever.
Yeah.
Like,
now everyone's gonna call you out on that.
I feel like the major thing I see where things fall apart is the attention to detail. You know what I mean? That being the huge part of branding. So, I mean, when I was around G-Eazy, as he kind of came into the game from like 100 fans, but the one thing that I learned from him, just being around him and stuff, and like his, model is the attention to detail. What is the flyer for the concert look like? Does that match the logo, the branding, everything with the video that, he posted on Instagram to the pictures? Are they all black and white, the same sort of aesthetic across the board? And like, if something was not part of that aesthetic, that was a red flag, and that got taken care of. If that meant redoing album arts, flyers, whatever, like, they would pay the extra money, go the extra mile to keep the aesthetic. And I think building, an artist brand from scratch, like a lot of what our listeners to do, like, they have to think in that mindset of keeping the aesthetic and the thread, like from day one.
Yeah. Across the board. Making sure the colors you're using the same colors consistently. For example, I think Maja Jordan and Division is great at their branding and marketing. That's a fun example because they're using the same hues. They're using the same colors throughout their merch, throughout their album covers, to their flyers for like pop-ups. And they they don't have to all look the same, but they have, like, for example, Division has a cover. It was a picture from Havana, and Brock, he's their creative director. He threw on like these hues, but he made that cohesive even in his pop-ups. So those same colors that you'll see on the album covers, you'll see when you enter their pop-up.
That's cool. That's so great.
With the neon lights and everything.
Yeah, that's great.
Because like like automatically you think, oh, okay, these colors, oh, that's, Division. Like,
right.
you you match the colors and you're like, okay, that groups this, you know, like people just naturally group things together.
Right.
Yeah.
And that probably goes back to the wardrobe, you know, that he wears probably, you know, keeping within the lines of, you know, the colors of the brand. And
yeah, sometimes. I mean, wardrobe, not so much like with the hues and stuff, but sometimes. But just making sure everything else, your credentials too, I think that's super important, details. And with branding, you almost have to have a designer's eye. And when I say designer's eye is different from like a normal person's eye, is because they're so tedious about certain details too. Like they'll notice if something is like not centered. And you know, the spaces too. You just need a designer's eye on your team, at least one person.
Yeah.
Because they'll call you out on that shit.
Yeah, we have the same discussions about the sound, you know?
Yeah.
Because we're producers. And so most of the time when artists are throwing out music, especially when they're new to it, they're not paying attention to how it sounds even, which is really weird to me. It blows my mind because that is the number one thing about music and your product is how it sounds. So you can like look the roll and all this shit, but you don't like sound like all of your music sounds so different. It's not really well produced. It's not well recorded. It's not mixed or mastered. And you're like, how did you get the product completely wrong? You know what I mean? Like this
Maybe
is
because
music.
they're using different recording engineers and different people to master stuff. So like that person, I know
it's the same thing. Like you need a designer.
Yeah, you need one consistent person.
Like you need one consistent person working on your records.
Yeah.
Even if you're getting beats or whatever from someone else, it's always good to have that engineer or a main producer, an executive producer is what we would call it. Just kind of like look at it and go, dude, this doesn't fit this project. Just release it as a street single or whatever, right?
Yeah.
You need to know those things. And that's
basically,
like step one.
Find your 40.
Yeah, find your 40, right.
Yeah. Find your 40 and Drake.
So, yeah, that's we can go super deep on the sound, but like we would probably bore you.
Yeah.
But like the aesthetic of the brand, I think that is the number one thing that I think people haven't decided on. And I think as an artist, the first thing you have to do is decide and go with it, even if you change it later. But you have to get in that mindset of deciding like, I'm gonna ride with this. And
pick your colors, pick your logo, pick the font. Like you need something just to be you. Like you can put out as much music as you want, but if you don't have an image to match your sound, people can't correlate that, you know? Like you were saying, it could change later, and that's fine. Like people evolve, their music evolves, so the visuals will evolve with it. Just be consistent with your look, your image, your brand, and people will be consistent with you.
Yeah. Well, hey, thank you so much for coming on. Last thing I want to ask is, I want you to just like, I know you've given a ton of like different tips throughout the whole thing, but it's been like 40 something minutes, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I would love for you to just give like a little list of like tips for artists right now that are building their team, you know what I mean? Or coming out with their second project or whatever, looking for a label, like they're just getting into it.
Right.
Like what are some really like top like 5 things that you could tell them to really pay attention to on branding, marketing, getting their sound and everything, their vibe?
So have something to have people to relate you with. So have a relatable story to tell. Don't just throw out a mixtape and just talk bullshit or talk about nothing. I like how you're gonna get an audience, how you're gonna get people to stick on you is the stories you tell. Finding your sound. I know a lot of artists are still trying to find their sound, and they're still putting out music out there. And once you find your sound, stick to that lane because that's your lane. Dominate that lane, master it. And with branding, I think if you know who you are, then that should come very easy for you.
Right.
Certain colors that make you feel a certain way or whatever. Like, for an example, Belly, he uses that blue, right? We'll always match him with that color. So just even picking out colors, make a mood board for yourself. How do you visually see yourself, and then present that to your team? Even, if simple pictures that you like cut from the internet, style from fashion, anything, and that will at least help you create your brand identity from a mood board. And building a team, don't stick with the yes men. You need people to call you out on your bullshit. You need people to be like, nah, that song actually sucks. You cannot release that.
Don't do it.
Yeah, and also, like, you need people to don't just have people on your team listen to your music. You need other people to listen to your music, because of course your team's gonna be like, yeah, that sounds hot. Like,
we're lit.
Like, oh, this is the shit. This is gonna be number one. Like, you need other ears to listen to your sound. And take the criticism. Don't take that personal. Like, there's a lot of sensitive people out there. But you need a backbone if you want to be in this industry.
100%. That is amazing. Like, honestly, love it. I think this is going to be super useful for everyone listening. For me, I just like learned so much. I'm like, oh shit, yeah. I need to go back on Radium and like get some colors going. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me, guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been great. Can you let these people know where to find you on socials?
Sure. My handle is victoria.sou and my website is victoriasue.com.
There you go. And then go follow Kevin at KDE Beats.
Follow Bradley at Bradley HD.
There you go. You got it right this time. I like that. And we'll put everything up at radium_media and www.radium-media.com. Thank you so much, Victoria Sue.
Of course.
Have a good one.